hope you're all filled up with some beautiful food and some coffee, awake and ready for the next session. The first session of today. So just to give you a little bit of an information about today, we have two different panels and one pitch session happening at the same time. So at the same time right now, upstairs there's a payments and transfers panel and also startups pitching upstairs. And also after this session, at the break, in the coffee break, there will be startups pitching outside here as well. So if you hear a ring, a bell ringing, so go out there and see the startup pitching for you. There will be 3 minutes for each startup. It's a random selection, so any startup can go up and pick up the bell and start ringing, and you go there, you listen to them, what's happening with them. There's a lot of great startups here today, especially from different countries. Yesterday, a lot of Turkish startups were pitching upstairs. So I'm a startup angel. That's why I'm really pushing on those guys to get some attention. And today, we have a 360 interactive session here. It's going to be a fun one. We tried it yesterday. So two individuals come up, two speakers come up, and every 10 minutes, one go out of the stage and another one comes up. This is a new technique. It's very interactive. It's very fun. So if I can get our first two speakers on stage, that would be great. Welcome, welcome. You have your microphones ready. So stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everybody. Welcome to the second day of Istanbul. I will always think about InsurTech, so Istanbul FinTech Week. We already explained you the format, 360. You will be listening 8 speakers during the next 80 minutes. Each time there will be 2 speakers on stage, and then one will leave, the new one will come. In the end, I will come back and close the loop, so each speaker will have 20 minutes to talk. So maybe before we start, let us introduce ourselves, and then we start our conversation. Maybe Eric, would you start to introduce yourself?
Good morning. Very quick introduction of what I do. I'll mention just 3 things. I run InsurTech Venture Partners, which is a private equity fund that invests in InsurTech, not broad fintech, but just InsurTech, and we also specialize in the sense that we only accept other insurance companies as our partners, really. So we invest for insurers in InsurTech. That's number 1. Number 2, I'm chair of the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries in the UK, but also responsible for Singapore, Hong Kong, a couple of countries in Far East Asia and so forth. Third one is probably also quite relevant here. I chair and I sit on board committees for a number of insurance companies, very often private equity owned and in need of a turnaround.
Good, thank you, Eric. A few words from my side. My name is Okan Utkeri. This is my 28th year in the industry. I'm an insurance profession fundamentally. My previous role was the chief executive of Eureko Sigorta, and recently I have been working in Guy Carpenter. But alongside my professional life, I am working very closely with startups for the last 3-4 years. I am startup mentor in different incubation acceleration programs. I also started to be angel investor to them, and my main passion is InsurTech. So our ambition is to flourish a healthy InsurTech ecosystem in Turkey. That's our aim, and for that purpose, I'm supporting COPUP as their InsurTech program lead. So we work closely with them, and our aim is, as I said, to create a healthy InsurTech ecosystem within Turkey. Good. The topic of today's first session is Insurance 4.0. I know there are speakers who will talk about it later, so I will leave up to them. But this 4.0 concept, as you know, is coming from Industry 4.0, and everything is changing, actually, in a very fast and also in tremendous speed and severity. And we are living in a very, critical period with regards to this digital transformation, so-called, and digitization. And it affects all industries, of course, including insurance. So what we see now, every single part of the insurance value chain is being digitized. So what does it mean? Actually, we are not talking about just product development or distribution, but actually we are talking about the full insurance value chain, which includes, of course, the products based on IoTs, telematics, wearables, and different new technologies, plus, of course, distribution through different mobile digital platforms, of course, pricing, risk selection, underwriting, let's say, claims, policy administration. So all value chain is being digitized during this digital transformation journey. And it's a big challenge for the industry, I mean, for the main players. Everybody's trying to adapt themselves into this new life. On one side, of course, insurtechs are coming to the scene. They are trying to help and also disrupt the current system. So we are living, as I said, in a very critical path to this new insurance life, let's say, for the future. So maybe I can start by asking to Eric, how do you see this big change? I mean, how do you see this transformation with regards to insurance, and what should companies be doing?
I want to pick up on one thing you said. You spoke about the value chain, and of course everybody's quite aware of distribution having gone online and mobile and so forth, but I agree with you that it's actually across the entire value chain that technology can and will have to enable insurers to become much more efficient. I think that insurance definitely serves a purpose and works for our clients, but it could work an awful lot better. We have a lot of costs that we face, and if you look at the total combined ratio, which add distribution cost, administration cost, claims management, and so forth, to the actual claims, we see that claims is just not high enough a fraction of the premium really. So we need to kind of get the claims, the claims cost as being the really significant cost for doing insurance. That's incompressible. But all of the administrative sides have really got to come down in cost to serve our clients better. And technology enables this. That's of course what we didn't have in the past. Technology is, in essence, it's three different things that we've seen that we now have available. One is high performance computing and the cloud. Number two is big data analytics. And number three is mobility and the Internet of Things. And these three technologies enable insurers to rethink how they do business really across the value chain. And that's exactly where the startups and the technology companies that are looking to go into fintech and into insurtech approach. So you will see again and again, you see hundreds of different companies, but it's one of those three aspects that they take up to make insurance a lot more efficient.
Yeah. Maybe we can also talk about a bit the insurtechs because they are coming to the scene. And when we look at the big picture, of course, insurance industry is still very conventional way of working. We do have lots of pain points. And also all of the technologies we talk about, IoT, AI, deep learning, robotics, drones, wearables, you name it, everything is somehow touching one part of the value chain. So that brings a lot of opportunities for insurtechs, but they seem to struggle to, let's say, click to this system. So how can we create, let's say, collaboration and cooperation atmosphere between incumbents and the insurtechs and the whole ecosystem?
I think it's so you can either do innovation in two ways. Like, a pharmaceutical company will do a lot of innovation in-house. I claim that the insurance industry should not do that. We have a few very large players, global players or pan-European players, but that's a handful. Most insurance companies are really domestic leaders. So, or even it's a very fragmented industry, and it hasn't really internationalized, and the scale is actually not at the peak of their potential. So, for that reason, it is just not realistic to think that insurance companies will do all of this on their own, all of this in-house. Their staff is good at other things. It is a legacy industry. We struggle to get young fresh blood inside the companies as well. And our scale is not such that we could do massive development in-house. And so that's why I think it's very well possible that startups and specific insurtech companies go and sell their capabilities, their services across a number of domestic players, and it's also very often possible, and that's actually the logic of my insurtech fund, it's very possible to team up insurers in different countries who don't step on each other's toes, will never become a direct competitor in each other's markets because they just work in other countries, and have them still, they have the same needs, they have the same requirements in terms of gearing up with the technologies that I named, and you can really do that. And so I think the way for insurance to innovate is really to open up, collaborate with companies that are just going to be better at specific aspects of the value chain than they are themselves.
Okay. Can we say that, of course, there are two teams, disruption and collaboration or evolution. Can we say for the insurance industry, it's more about collaboration and evolution of the system than the disruption?
Well, I mean, so far in my discussion, I've obviously focused on making existing insurance more competitive, essentially. That's why. But of course, you've also got new products or new ways of doing things. For instance, one big issue is, of course, cyber insurance. That's a completely new product that didn't exist and is absolutely necessary. Every insurer that I work for now has actually got the cyber insurance in place because so much of the core of our company is now, not even hosted in the company anymore. It's in the cloud. It's in an external database and so forth. It is vulnerable for attacks, and so we do have that cyber insurance in place. And the cyber insurance really does two things: A, it covers us, but B, for insurers which are themselves not really technology savvy, it gives us an opportunity to collaborate with a specific insurer that approaches us and that tells us this is how you can get better at this game. So we get both cover and advice, and that's quite critical. And you will see more new products that simply didn't exist 10 years ago come about and expand the footprint of the industry.
Thanks, Eric. My time is up, so I have to leave. And the new speaker is Metin. I think he's taking my position.
Metin Demirel, Aksigorta. Welcome. If you would just quickly introduce yourself.
Does it work? Yeah, it works. I'm a software engineer, actually. And when I started the business, I first started to work Akbank, early 90s. In 95, actually, I took a job opportunity in the US. And it was actually a very critical time because I now noticing that the Democrats, Al Gore and Bill Clinton, they were laying out the foundation of that virtual digital economy at that time. We start to see the fruits right now. It was interesting. And I worked like 11 years over there. Then come back to Turkey and worked for Tofaş 2 years. And I entered the insurance business. It's like no way out. Since 2008, I've been in the insurance, first Zurich insurance, now in the Aksigorta. I'm responsible IT and retail underwriting. So you can see how technology is taking over the core businesses, as you see my position. And technology doesn't work here.
Oh.
You're back.
Could you maybe sketch? Now I'm on. Yes. Could you maybe sketch how Aksigorta kind of approaches technology and what you decide to do in house and what are you on the market for? What are you looking to get out of the startup scene and the external vendor scene?
What we see technology, as I mentioned, my new position, we are trying to change the core of the business with applying the technology. The thing is, when we talk about business is a very legacy business. It's not the technology, actually business itself is a very legacy. And when we see those our core systems, or you can call ERP systems, they're the reflection of the business, decades-old business captured on those systems. And what is the biggest mistake the current insurance are doing? They're trying to apply those new things on those core systems, which are not designed for that purpose, actually. You cannot change the bulldozer and make a bike, you know. What our approach is in that way. We kept that core systems in one side, and we try to apply the other things, new things, for example, new technology, robotics, chatbots, AI, for the separating them. And the purpose of this digitalization, actually, there are two things, actually, in this digital companies. When you see that Amazon or Netflix, whatever, they are scalable because they are on the digital environment. And they know their customer very well, since their system designed for that. In our systems, actually, we talk about policy numbers or claims files. That's why we are trying to apply the new technology to understand our customer better and make their life much easier. It's not just customers, it's also our stakeholders, like the agencies itself. And when it comes to the startups, they are really good. I see the startups like a glimpse of the future. You know, if you know the right ones, you can easily apply partially to the right points, you know, to prepare yourself for the future.
Can I maybe ask a little bit about the time frame that it takes to pull an innovation through? I mean, my experience is that it always takes a lot more time than people estimate to kind of get the full benefit of technological innovation. Is that your experience?
Depends. In our case, it's not. But you should be patient. It depends what you want to change, because we're always talking about the disruption. But the disruption is not you should think the whole world as an ecosystem. For example, automotive insurance. We're talking about like $5 trillion market, whole insurance, roughly half of them the non-life, and the $1 trillion is the automotive insurance, which is big, right? Huge chunk. But it's been started like 1930s, after the First World. It's not that old, you know. That's the disruption came. So we should wait, we should be patient for the next disruption, but we should be ready ourselves. Like it's like early 20th century, all these steam-powered plants, huge, monolithic, and electricity was there, but it took like 20 years to manufacturers to figure out how to utilize electricity, then they all became also, you know, you should place yourself, position yourself in a right point in order to understand the time frame. In our case, we have very good applications, and in a very short of time, we enjoying actually the technology.
So my experience is that when you start to collaborate, as I said, you know, we own a number of insurers who are in a turnaround situation, and then we bring innovation there, and obviously the innovation has to graft its way into the company. So you always have to change an awful lot more than you think, because it's not just about having a single idea or a single technology in the company, but the rest of the company has to envelope it and combine with it and work with it quite well. And so what we see is that, for instance, if for many companies we bring the complete sales process and so forth online, internet, iPad, mobile, and so forth. But what we then see is that it's quite good to have, you know, to have that kind of a competitive must-have right now. But that alone is not enough, because your processes, your entire makeup of your company will have to change and adapt to that. And we see that at very many points. For instance, manual intervention or ineffective processes or you know, excessive administration doesn't work well. And so when we bring everything online at the same time, we have to actually change our back office quite systematically, and it's a complete learning experience for everyone. And that's also why I think that you know, as an insurer, it's just not enough to say we're going to work with a startup. You have to kind of really collaborate, make it teamwork, and the startup has to be truly kind of almost completely integrated into your processes to really get the benefit of that innovation. At Aksigorta, how do you tend to work with external partners?
First of all, as I said, Aksigorta, we're an insurance company, and the technology is something is outside. So we invite startups, and we would like to gain as much of we can gain from them. If we try to do something from itself, you have a very limited resources, And also the culture is difficult. It's like, I can call it like a black hole, you know, it can suck everything around it. So we should be very clear about that separation, that thing. And startups right now, they have a different kind of mindset, and they know how to apply the technology. Actually, the trick here is not applying the technology, your business, actually changing your business according to, align to the technology these days, because that's the trend is going in that way. So that's, we utilize startup in that way actually. That's the, I think the best way. Otherwise, if you put startups and try to apply that startup in your business, they are just useless because they're not designed for that.
Yes. I have to agree. I mean, it would be interesting to have a third speaker here who is a startup and ask the startup what frustrates them about us, old legacy businesses, insurers that are trying to adopt technology. Maybe we'll have the opportunity later in the day to ask a startup to testify on how difficult we are as customers for them. One of the things that I have noticed is that we, when you introduce a new idea or innovation or a new software or a new technology into a company, very often what you get is, well, yes, but it has to do this as well, it has to do that as well. So people immediately ask for extra customization. What's your view on that? How much customization should we put into
that's the biggest problem we have. As I mentioned earlier, that core systems, that customization is killing them because they are not designed for that, you know.
Yeah.
As I said, the bulldozer, you cannot make a bike from a bulldozer. This is ridiculous. And when you try to force the startups to make a customization for your own legacy business, you're just killing them.
Yes.
Actually, you should customize yourself. That's the difficult part, you know. You should customize your culture. Culture is the biggest, that legacy, big culture.
I did not lead the question, I think, but Metin actually gave exactly the answer that I would be giving myself. Excess customization and excess demands are really adding layers of cost again, which is exactly what we don't want, and also adding huge operational risk, to be honest. So one of the things that we as an insurance industry have to do better is you know, to just make space for these technologies and not want to replicate every single aspect of old products and the old world and the old way of doing things into our own offering. So we do have to kind of accept that the world moves on and sacrifice certain things that are maybe no longer that relevant, and not try to over-customize and just step into the new world with the new technology. And I think that's part of, you know, a cultural issue that the industry has. And I think I've seen it not only in insurance companies, but also in other financial companies, that trying to over-customize really kills kind of the technology. So my time is unfortunately up, but let me invite Stuart King to take my seat. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you, Metin.
Thank you. Welcome, Stuart.
Good to see you.
Okay. Could you introduce yourself, Stuart?
So Stuart King, CEO and founder of Babel Cover. It's an early stage startup. So early, in fact, you could call it embryonic. I guess, how did it begin? For about 20 years, I've worked in what we would call alternative risk finance and risk transfer. So I spent a lot of time with multinational Fortune 500 companies trying to understand their own risk profiles and designing global insurance programs to optimize the capital, both on the side of the buyer and the seller. Some of these costs that the corporations incur for insurance can be in the hundreds of millions. So if we can save them a lot of money, it becomes insurance as a means of capital, is where I began. That was almost 20 years ago. About 5 years ago, I quit a very senior job in the industry because I just don't believe the current risk financing system or the back-end system is actually working. And I set myself a goal with new technologies to begin to explore how to optimize this, taking the macro level capital, insurance-linked securities, and really distributing that in a very cost-efficient way through the many layers and players of the industry. So I'm very pleased to be back in Turkey.
Oh, thank you. Hey, Stuart, could you tell us about that current innovation trends in the insurance services?
So I think what I'm seeing, other than a lot of exciting startups, many of them are in the audience. I'm fortunate enough to know quite a few of them, more as we're sort of an ecosystem helping each other out. But the trends I see is very much touching a point that Okan mentioned is claims optimization, automation. And what people are beginning to do is to try and take the sort of high frequency, low severity claims and automate that. So very often it's in the insurer's interest just to settle 100 euros here and there. So I'm seeing a lot more activity in the claims administration area, and quite simply moving from paper-based to digital.
Actually, we have a good example for that in Aksigorta, and we won Gartner Eye of Innovation Award in the Europe, which is Claims Chat. We work with the startups. What we're doing, we are creating a WhatsApp group in the claim services, which is very transparent. We are there, adjusters there, agents there. Everybody is in that WhatsApp group around the customer and try to help the customer, which has a tremendous impact actually on the customer side. Also, not good impact on the business side because our culture not designed to communicate the customer directly. But this helped a lot actually. We start to see our weaknesses. And we start to fix that.
And I think actually what is unique about your background, coming from the technology and banking side into insurance, I personally think is a very welcome step. I think it's going to disrupt a lot of the way incumbents are thinking. I think when
Let's see.
Well, yeah, no, I do. I genuinely believe that. And then if you take that claims automation to the next level, WhatsApp, all these social media sort of mechanisms now being able to take payments or transfer payments, micro banking, micro insurance, you end up in an environment. I believe the next trend is mutualization of risk, what we call sort of peer-to-peer insurance. The good thing is that the legislation is quite innovative actually over the last maybe 5-10 years. I've been fortunate enough to advise a number of regulators on innovative legislation. So what you're beginning to see is sort of like a microcosm of risk sharing. So I'm very, very sort of actively thinking about that.
I think the trend is going there, but slowly, but surely. But it's going to take some time for that because, again, the regulations and the culture, also people need to get used to it.
Yeah.
But also ecosystems, like working with the banks or the other partners, mutualization of the insurance, risk sharing can be important disruptive.
I think so, because when you start to price risk or you're trying to get price discovery, what you're trying to do is really retain as I say, the high frequency, low severity risks. And what you're really trying to get is the right point to transfer that risk. So if we look at motor, it's notoriously unprofitable, particularly in the UK and Europe. But actually, when you look at the macro level, it's actually not a bad product from a profitability standpoint over the long term. Why is that? Because the general public typically take a very low retention. Statistically, you could argue, you should never take a car policy below 4,000 euros deductible. But how do you finance the deductible if you ended up having that one in every X number of events? So I think that's the trend. I think a lot of insurtechs are looking at that optimization of the value chain.
And technology is helping on that.
Technology,
IoT especially.
I think sometimes getting the business case right, and then the technology can do anything you really want it to do. I think the biggest disruptor is the transparency that it brings. Not the technology, but a lot of the consumers today are looking for, where does my insurance asset go to? Or I want some overview on the value chain myself. Is it acceptable to have high commission rates? So I think supporting that, you have a lot more sandboxes. I think I'd like to talk a bit about that.
Regarding to that one, technology helping the things more transparent. Let me put it that way. We are all transparent right now. I think you got that phone and everybody knows you're here. Even they are listening you.
Yeah, I don't mind actually.
Me neither. So we are very, very transparent. And also in Turkish industry, we have Sigorta Bilgi Merkezi, is a government center. So we pumped all the data to them. It's online. And before actually issuing the policy, we go through them and we see all the history and everything regarding to that. So we are all transparent here, Stuart. So
Well, that's good.
not like China, though. that's more transparent than us.
Well, I think you know they're very much socially driven in their insurance purchase. So just to finish up on my topics around sandboxes, I think are very important for a startup. I think some of the work that Mustafa and the team at Coop Hub are doing is great. There are other countries out there, Singapore, Bermuda, the UK, they've got a lot of these sandboxes. What that enables a startup to do is, you know, test with a different license, or the barrier to entry to set up a startup, you've got a high level of capital. So they reduce that kind of barrier to entry. So I think what you've got is a very big desire from regulators to change. I think the industry, as you touched upon, needs to think very differently about the modern day consumer, but not forget its current customers. So I think you're going to have a migration, not an immediate cliff edge. I think you're going to have a migration of sort of newer buyers and distribution channels.
The one thing I would like to add, because our partner, AGS, they're big in Asia, and especially in China, they have a very competitive advantage since they don't have a lot of regulations, and they are applying it on that, you know, in very different areas. Their growth rate tremendous. And they use WeChat for all kind of digitalization, and they utilize the socials. They have a social scoring, you know. So that's another thing. Maybe we can learn, not apply, but we can learn. They are also. I can think China is a huge, big startup, you know. We can learn, try and error kind of thing, though.
Well, I think what you're touching upon is the emerging markets, and what you've got is a lot of growth. So insurance follows GDP. So when people have more assets to insure, they typically buy the products, but they're going straight to digital in many of those economies. So if you look at the CAGR for you know, Asia, India, it's through the roof. If you look at mature markets, US, Europe, it's very flat. So my view is that it's a cost reduction play in developed markets, and you know, digitization in growing markets.
And they don't have tight for the legacy, you know, infrastructure, because they can jumpstart for the new things.
I think actually maybe that's for some of the incumbents to think about is, and you will know yourself from a technology background, I think you just have to scrap the old way of doing it and start new. I mean, the technology
but in the right time, though. In the right time. Because as I said, automotive insurance started in 1930s, you know?
Yeah,
it's about that in next 10, 20 years, like we're talking about $1 trillion market.
Yeah,
and after that, you're saying the motor insurance is not profitable, but England, UK is a different kind of animal. That's profitable for the aggregators, not for the insurance companies. But in Europe, still makes money. But think about that. After the car stop, you know, driver stop, what we're going to insure? So we should think about that.
Yeah, I think it's probably a connected product. You know, it's not verticals: insurance, car, health, pet, travel. It will just be a subscription-based model. I've really enjoyed the conversation.
My time is up.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Nice to talk to you. So, wow. Oh, welcome on stage, Yavuz from AXA. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Happy to.
So, AXA, wow. Maybe if you could just introduce yourself and some of the activities that you're doing within AXA.
Okay, first of all, myself, Yavuz, CEO of AXA, 29 years in the market, insurance professional, civil engineer, one of the dinosaurs of the market, but happy dinosaur, being able to see the digital transformation within the insurance industry. That's why I'm very happy to be here as well. AXA Sigorta in Turkey is a composite company for P&C and life and saving. We are distributing throughout our agencies, banks, and the brokers, and the very, very small direct business.
So I know when we spoke before, we talked about ecosystems and those things. I think AXA is pretty big in the local market. You can probably influence a lot of change. But the model in Turkey is quite unique, isn't it? I think from what I understood in comparison to, say, Europe or maybe further abroad? You're quite digital as a nation, more financial services, but insurance is catching up. Maybe you could talk a bit about that.
For sure. Just to remind for all friends that we welcome here, Turkish insurance industry, first of all, consists of many opportunities. Just one figure, the penetration rate in Turkey in insurance is 4 times less than Europe. That's why from that point of view, there is a great opportunity for insurers. And in Turkey, the distribution model is very similar to Europe. I mean, the mass majority is distributed by the agents and brokers and banks, and there are very limited activities in direct. But in terms of servicing and in terms of activity that insurers are in the field is quite advanced from our opinion, because I am capable to compare the AXA entities versus Turkish operation. Within this framework, last year in 2018 and April, in these days, we launched in this market an initiative so-called AXA Sigorta 4.0. It was great to have discussed here, because this part of 4.0 is not for AXA. 4.0 is for all industry. Insurance 4.0 is our common feature, because if we want to grow as a market, it's not only for AXA, it's not for only AXA, Sigorta, Allianz, and the others. We have to grow all together by using the technologies. AXA is one of the leaders in putting on the table this fact, and we are concentrating. And if you ask me what happened during the last year, sales are boosted? No. Are the agencies and customers are fully rating AXA the best of the best? The answer is no. But there is a transformation path that we have to face, and I'm very happy being able first provide the telematic product of behavioral attitudes of the drivers. I am very happy to see a kind of application so-called AXA Fit, who is addressing the need of the customers. But what we have learned, the customers, the agencies, even the employees are changing. And this Insurance 4.0 should consist of 4 pillars. Agency 4.0, Customer 4.0, Employee 4.0, and Process and Simplification 4.0. And the technologies, sorry, I am an insurance professional. I am not an insurtech guy. I am not an IT guy. It's not a rocket science. We should take it as a simple. Simple, why so? Because if you discover well the agency journey, the customer journey, the employee journey, pain points, if you fix the basics, then technology, insurtechs are helping you to make their life easy. You know, the ultimate goal of the insurers, as AXA Sigorta as of today, being the partners of our customers, not only the payers, not only the payer of the commission payer of the agency, not a salary payer of employee or claim payer of our customers. We should be their partners. That's why Insurance 4.0 is very important for Turkish insurance industry.
So when we think back to a long period of time, people would buy their goods from different specialist shops. I think insurance is generally sort of built around towers. Different products require a different market. I'm quite interested to get your view on the customer journey, or how maybe AXA is working with that. Bearing in mind a lot of technology can automate that. So from what you just said, you've a lot of traditional agency distribution who get the client's trust. You have the insurer that's sort of standing behind as a kind of guarantee. You've got obviously the customer first and foremost from what you've said. But when you think of technology being able to distribute automatically or a self-service kind of product, bearing in mind selling insurance is quite regulated, how as a firm do you think AXA are adopting to that, the customer demands? Or are you seeing customers wanting to go direct through an application to buy insurance, or is the market still very much a personalized market?
First of all, we should think realistically. As of today and in the coming 3-4 years' time, it will continue search online and buy offline. This is the current characteristic of Turkish insurance industry. It's not bad, because If the customers try to search online, it means that you have to provide something in digital words. However, I would like to share during the limited time one of my experience. My daughter, married last year, white collar, very much digital dependent lady, wants to buy insurance. And I used her and her friends as a laboratory. I asked them how you are going to buy your insurance product. Forget your dad. Your dad is not anymore in the insurance business. The simple answer, we will search online the price, the quality. We will see the comments of the other customers. They bought this product. We will make a comparison, and I forced them, how are you going to buy? At the end, they said, the answer was very simple as of today. I need someone to recommend me. But with a precondition of this someone has to touch me, has to come to me, has to be visible digitally in front of me. What does it mean? It's so simple. They would like to have a chat online with them, but physically, which means today, what's the answer?
I agree
FaceTime.
with you. Yeah, I agree with you. And I think, I don't know what your view is, but I certainly know within the Turkish market, you've got a lot of growing, technology-savvy individuals, but they want engagement or recommendations, and I think that's quite important to know. I think the last thing maybe that I would like to touch upon before I leave the stage is there's a growing trend to what we call virtual currencies. There's a growing trend, and I think in Turkey it's quite popular with the younger generation. I think that brings a compliance and regulatory dynamic. You've got a lot of regulators now beginning in their sandboxes to welcome this concept of digital money. I think that's a long way off in that sense. I think for a big firm like AXA, those sort of opportunities, you have to kind of be very careful about pursuing. Do you feel that by not being part of that wave of new technology adoption, digital way of working, or companies like AXA are big enough to sort of weather that?
From Turkish operation point of view, I can say it's very early stage because Turkey has down the road has to fulfill some gap, other things in the economy, in the currency.
True,
we have other topics to focus on. That's why, from the regulation point of view, we are not ready. We will not be ready next year and the year after. This is what we predict. In overall, yes, it is a topic. We have to be ready for blockchain. We have to be ready for this kind of digital currency. But as of today, first, our concentration has to be increase the awareness of insurance, be simple for our agents, be simple for our customers, be on time in claim payment, be correct with the information that you provide with the digital, and provide them digital solutions starting from buying process, including claims, advisory services, and payments. There are other alternative digital payment methodologies that we are using as of today.
Just closing up then, I guess what you're saying is a startup that would maybe approach you for being part of your support network, what you would be, I imagine from what you're saying, is to solve problems of today. Let's wait for tomorrow to solve those problems, be aware of them. So your advice for any startups in finishing?
We welcome all the startups to understand them, to make them ready for the future of insurance in Turkey. And AXA Security is one of the very open company for any kind of startup to welcome and to understand their capabilities, explain them the pain points in our industry.
Wonderful. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. And I look forward to spending more time with you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, now we have a guest from Israel.
If you stand, I stand.
Hi, Kobe.
Hi.
Welcome.
Welcome. So your daughter bought a AXA product?
For sure. It's not allowed. Still, I try to finance.
Okay.
Okay, Kobe, thanks to the technology and social media, I tried to check early in the morning when I had a chat with Okan, your CV. Sorry, it was so long. Not easy to me to introduce you. Introduce yourself, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Kobi, like you know. I'm coming from Israel. I was 20. I have experience in the insurance industry for 22 years. I was a broker. I had an insurance company subsidiary, or Generali Insurance Group subsidiaries, a joint venture between me and Generali Group. And since 2015, I sold my shares in the company, and I started being involved in the insurtech industry. So this is me. We started insurtech Israel 2 years ago, and we have two key activity in insurtech Israel. One key activity is the investment activity. We are investment fund. We already invested in 4 insurtech, only insurtech startups. And in the other end, we have a big activity helping key players in the industry to find and business and in technology business in the Israeli ecosystem for insurance company, local insurance company, all over the world insurance company, and for startups. So this is our activity.
And it's very interesting, to hear, because also from this country, it's not easy to see what happens in the insurance ecosystem in Israel. And just very simple question, because he asked me to ask simple questions, but simple questions even could be complex.
Okay.
First of all, who is interested with the insurtechs? Is the regulation ready in Israel? What are the key facts you face today in terms of difficulty and in terms of opportunities?
Okay.
Simple question.
Yeah, simple and long. First of all, let's speak about the regulation. Okay, the Israeli regulator, the commissioner, is very active in the industry. He's support the industry with regulation. We have a light sandbox for digital insurance company that want to be active in Israel. So there is a lot of opportunity to insurtech startups to operate in Israel. He even support us with more things, like he has arrived with me, with a delegation 2 weeks ago to Frankfurt, and speak in the conference in Frankfurt with all the startups behind him. So he's really support the ecosystem. He is open hackathons. He's even bring money. So the government in Israel is very active, and I hope it will be in Turkey too, because it's very support the industry.
Do you see that this is an advantage, because as of today we don't have such a climate in Turkey, getting support from the government for the startups or the insurtechs, fintechs?
It will happen.
It will happen.
It will happen. It takes time. The ecosystem is growth easy. Israel is it's traditional to be entrepreneur in Israel. You know, in the late days, the Jewish mama wanted that her son or daughter will be a lawyer or doctor. Yes. You know, in the past. What she wants now is he or she will be entrepreneur. So this is a culture. Okay. And it takes time, but it will happen even in Turkey.
Yeah, for sure. That's why we have this kind of nice, very effective organizations. Last question for the Israeli, because it's very interesting for us to hear. From an Israel, let's say, startup point of view, how many times you had contact outside of Israel? What are the opportunities you have seen? Which countries? Okay. How you recommend to our, startups to go out of this country?
First of all, Turkey is very big. There's a big opportunity here. This is the reason that I arrived here. But let me ask the people here, the audience, who heard about Lemonade, Next Insurance, Hippo, Plancree, Antidote? All these names are Israeli startups. You know that? So this is the ecosystem. And it's, like I said, it's easy to be entrepreneur in Israel. There's a very good infrastructure for being entrepreneur. There's a lot of angel investors. It's very important to the industry that there is the angels that support the early stage startups. So this kind of ecosystem, this kind of environment, growth the market. And, and one more thing that helped the ecosystem in Israel to grow is the academic and the army. Because the academic, there's a lot of engineers in Israel. It's a very good university in Israel. And the army is doing a good job too. You know, in Israel, 18 or 19 years old, a boy or girl, take project in the level of sea level in the industry. So they take care about the budget and project immediately when they just begin. So this is make them a very good and amateur entrepreneurs when they're going out to the business.
It's not very surprising, but it's good to hear that, you know, fintechs, insurtechs, or startups is not related for one specific industry. It's an overall cultural change starting from education and having a full support of the regulator and government and great interest of the institutions to invest on. This is a, I mean, simple message for me and for, I think, for our Turkish colleagues here. Good luck to all of us, because it's not going to be easy in this country, but when we see that it has been realized, we should have courage to go beyond of today. Just, I want to share with you as well some ambitious, I mean, expectation of AXA Global in terms of startups and innovation. You know, a global ambition of AXA Group is a kind of to build a new services beyond the insurance. And in order to achieve this, AXA Group launched a new company, an organization so-called AXA Next, starting from 1st of 2019.
Great.
AXA Next consists of 5 important pillars. The first one is AXA Lab. Today, AXA Labs exist in Shanghai, in Silicon Valley, in London. And these labs are closely monitoring the technology and the opportunities in the technology. There is another very important organization, so-called CAMET. CAMET is
Israeli.
Yes, CAMET is a kind of joint venture, and CAMET is investing on startups at worldwide. And within the CAMET, as far as I follow the numbers, today there are 300 startups working in the CAMET premises in Paris. And there is another organization, so-called AXA Venture Partners. AXA Venture Partners is a fund of investing in the startups. And as of today, AXA Venture Partners provided 600 million euro to this kind of organizations, startups, and so on and so forth.
There is a future.
There is a future.
And I want to tell you that CAMET, can you hear me? CAMET is an Israeli organization.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah,
So CAMET is a joint venture between AXA and few people, Israeli people, and it's really succeed.
And what is encouraging us as well, being in Turkey and being within the AXA Global, that there are two other pillars, which is the AXA Partners, which is a assistance and services beyond the insurance product, and the AXA Global Parametrics, which is fully related to the IoT technologies and the big data and the artificial intelligence. And why I try to summarize these 5 pillars, because AXA in the last 5 years' time invested €1 billion on that organizations, and the management of AXA decided to invest furthermore each year €200 million in the innovation in order to lead this being to be the partners of the stakeholders.
Yes, I want to tell you something about the Turkish ecosystem. Okay. First of all, Kopop, really active. You can see them all over the world, not just in Turkey. Yeah. I met them all over the world, a lot of activity, and I met a lot of entrepreneurs, Turkish entrepreneurs. So there is ecosystem, live and kicking. It's in the beginning, but there is a good future, because Turkey is a very big country with a very big potential for insurance. It's a bridge between Asia and Europe. So there is a big opportunity here in Turkey that the insurtech will be growth and be one of the leaders. And you must know that in the near future, insurance will be insurtech. Sure. So this is the big challenge for all the big companies.
I have a complementary comment on, which is, I mean, yes, fully share, fully agree, but insurers should not forget their core business. That's why we need the insurtech. That's why we need the fintech, insurtech, startup mindset within the company.
Yes.
But we should never forget our main role. We are the insurer. We are protecting the life of the people. We should commit ourselves to our customer and distributors to make their life easy and be ready for the upcoming changes within the future. Just last comment. Personally, I don't like the word of disruptive.
Okay.
I like the word of innovation and digital transformation will help to the cultural transformation as well. Because the meaning of disruptive could not be well understood within this culture. I think the time is over.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
And now I will call your friend.
Yes.
From
Yes.
Allianz.
Yes.
Close? Whoa. No. Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Hello.
So, okay, this is your stage.
Thank you.
Introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Erkan. I'm from Allianz Turkey. I'm the marketing director of Allianz. I have 17 years of experience in insurance industry. I have started as an underwriter in the fire department, but end up in marketing finally for the last 8 years. And now I'm running several units like customer experience, customer data analytics, loyalty management, and innovation.
Okay, great. So can you please tell us more about the customer relationship in Allianz?
Yeah. First, up to now, we have already talked about the most popular things like AI, IoT, disruption, innovation, startups. But I would like to move
This
you...
is a buzzword.
Yeah, I would like to move you all back to the core subject of these changes. All the speakers up to now mentioned that the world is changing. But with parallel to this change, the core thing is the customer is changing. And their expectations, wants, and needs are changing all the time. And today we are facing a customer profile who is learning from their experience with other industries. Think about a customer who is doing almost all transactions, all interactions with online banking. Their expectation from us as the insurance providers is changing. I have a 2.5-year-old boy who's trying to change the TV channel like the iPad Move. This is quite acceptable because it's his expectation. And it's a clue for us that if we don't change our products and services as insurance providers, we will not be able to meet their future needs. Today we are in the era that all the millennials, X generations, and baby boomers all at the same time in the sales funnel with different wants and needs. And moving back to your question, to be able to meet that different customer expectations in Allianz Turkey, we do run a systematically customer experience program to understand real customer pain points in each and every step of customer journey in every line of business. Then the real thing, innovation, comes to the stage where we solve those pain points, how we solve those pain points and turn them into customer delights. Then it's the innovation. To give you more specific examples, we have identified that in motor claims, the biggest pain point was the waiting time of the towing track. Think about you end up with an accident or your car has been broken down in Istanbul in the heavy traffic, you are waiting for the towing track.
Okay.
We have solved the problem like adding a feature to our customer mobile app where the customers can easily track on Google Map how far is the towing track and how much time will it take for the towing tram to arrive to the accident point. So
great.
it's just managing their expectation. Another example from health, the reimbursement case for not contracted doctors in the outpatient claims was a big pain point in the journey.
Why?
because you need to fill in a lot of forms, you need to, give the customers need to
A
give
long
the doctor
journey.
bill. Yeah, it was a long journey. We have added a feature again to the mobile app where the customers can easily take the picture of the bill and the payment is made within 2 days. And in pension, we found out that majority of the customers had really some problems to create their fund package. So we have there partnered with a startup and end up with a solution where we do recommend them their fund mix with respect to their risk appetite. This was another innovation and solution for our customers we have identified in Allianz.
Okay, good ideas. Part of them are not innovation or not development. This is a good ideas.
Yeah.
And so, can you give us some insight from the new future of Allianz in Turkey?
Yeah, what we are trying to do is we are trying to create an innovation culture within the company.
In the company?
In the company, yeah. We have an innovation office, and we are running an internal entrepreneurship program where our colleagues come up with innovation ideas and go through all the stage of startup process. They have some funds allocated to them. They have the incubation period, and once they are mature enough with their idea, they are in the competition. And the selected project gets the highest fund and goes on live. At the same time, we are also trying to get in cooperation with startups out of Allianz as well. As I mentioned in the example, in the pension case, that was a startup coming from the outside but solving our pain point.
Excellent, nice. Good to know, thank you. What do you think about the future of the insurtech here in Turkey and in the world? What is going to be the next steps for that?
Well, the customer needs are always changing. I think there is always a big potential for insurtech in Turkey. And as the corporate companies and Allianz, we are very eager to learn from startups because their open-minded, disruptive point of view, their innovative solutions are always vital for us. And we are looking forward to hear some solutions from them as well.
Great. Great to know that. So the time is ending. I'm going out. Okay. And before I'm going out, I want to say some words about the Turkish ecosystem. Grow your ecosystem, imagine, and you will achieve the goals. So good luck for all, and have a good day. Who is next?
I would like to welcome Arpad to the scene. So, welcome.
Welcome.
Could you please introduce yourself to us?
Yes, I will. I think we've... can you hear me? Is it... Yeah, now it works. Yavuz Bey has started the trend, so we're all standing up now. Thank you. Much more comfortable. My name is Arpad. I'm a partner with an international law firm that is called GID. It's a Paris-based international law firm. We're present in Turkey for more than 20 years, and what we do here is basically advising international investors and local players as well in their business and development strategies, focusing mainly on mergers and acquisitions, but also especially on the insurance business, and that's what's been leading us to insurtech for the past couple of years. We have also a global practice within the firm called GID 255, which is basically focusing on digital transformation of our clients, so where we're trying to brainstorm with them, structure their strategies, and help them implementing this in the current environment.
Arpad, could you inform us about the potential impact of insurance regulations globally on innovation?
I think it's fair to say that regulators around the world in different countries have had a varying level of enthusiasm around technological developments and insurtech in particular. And this is, I think, basically due to the fact that on the one side, they expect a dynamic insurance management process, whereas on the other hand, there are certain required regulatory controls. So reconciling law and innovation can be challenging for legislators for the basic reason that, by definition, innovation is departing from market standards and from frameworks. So at certain points, you may question whether law is able to respond or address the needs of innovation. And I think when we look in practice at how certain regulators have approached this issue, there are some positive trends that can be identified. For example, in Switzerland, the Swiss Federal Council has been gradually integrating within the legislation certain regulatory relief for fintech and insurtech. And most recently, they have proposed a draft bill that would suggest that certain insurance undertakings with innovative business models would be exempted from the supervision of the Swiss Financial Market Association. So you would be deregulated, which is, I think, quite a positive move. Similarly, in Italy, the regulation is now defining what is the blockchain and what is smart contract, so as to bring more legal value to these terms. On a more guidance level, the US Department of Transport has been commenting on the definition of driver and recommended that the term human be withdrawn from the definition because when you look at automated vehicles, the driver may no longer be a human being, but rather a software. So these are the issues that are, a reality, and I think certain regulators have understood that quite well. But despite the fact that regulators may have certain, flexible or market-oriented approach, doesn't change the reality that fintech and insurtech companies and innovative entrepreneurs need to focus as a primary area of concern from my perspective on the arrangement they need to put in place and the legal structuring and regulatory compliance of whatever products they're bringing on the table. This is because whatever offer they're presenting contains additional components. You may have software developers, you may have device manufacturers that are also included into that offer, and every one of these stakeholders have a separate legal responsibility or share of compliance to be filled in. So these are the elements that need to be taken into consideration. But in a nutshell, I think on the regulatory side, authorities have understood and identified the fact that there is a need to support the rise of insurtech, and that this needs to be done with a framework, but that remains flexible and leaves a certain room and flexibility for market players to bring that added value to the insurance sector so as to be able to develop and have the market grow. And from that point, maybe I'd like to ask you, we're talking about development and how this is being handled within corporates. So from your perspective, is the approach top-down or bottom-up, or both of them? What do you see?
Well, it has been always a dilemma whether it should be top-down, bottom-up, or both. I believe that in the beginning, before you create the innovative customer-centric culture in the organization, you should start with bottom-up approach, where the company shows the innovation target, company provides the funding, company in a way pushes or in a way motivates the employees for innovative approaches. But the ambition at the end should be able to reach a top-down, innovation-centric organization. As Allianz, globally, on the global scale, we do it very well. We have a global digital factory in Munich, where we design the digital customer journeys for all over the world, and we get together to share best practices. And in addition to that, we have Allianz X technology, where the pure focus is on innovation, technology, new trends, understand the customer needs and wants. And in the operating entity scale in Turkey, as I mentioned, we do run the entrepreneurship program internally to create the customer-centric approach feeded with innovation. So briefly, the answer is, till you create the culture, it's a hybrid solution, then the ambition should be to be able to reach to top-down approach.
I think another issue that is of interest when we talked a bit earlier about regulations and the impact on the business is how this term that is that was the buzzword as well for the past couple of years. The GDPR is impacting on the overall industry because when we look from an insurtech perspective, what we see is that these companies are now processing a large amount of data. Yeah. This can serve for the purpose of risk control, but this can also serve for the purpose of developing new products in the future. So in a sense, in both situations, it helps creating value and its benefits to the insurance value chain overall. However, when you look at this from a regulatory perspective, the more volume and data you're gathering, the more challenges you may face as an insurtech company. And in that respect, I think insurtech now need to acknowledge the fact that they have to onboard a proper data management process or policies in order to be able to clearly address these issues, because obviously on the one hand there are sanctions like under the GDPR legislation are quite heavy, but on the other hand the fact that they have these this comfort that they are able to offer to their insurance partners, it can also be kind of a market differentiator. So I think that's also a reason why they should be focusing on that. When we look at this from an insurer's perspective, the thing is, I think half probably of European insurers have put as a focus in terms of digital strategy the analytics in terms of data, and especially big data analytics and predictive analytics. And with that in mind, in terms of core focus, they also have to put that in a balance together with the requirements under the GDPR. And when you look at the heavy requirements that are being brought by the regulation, you can consider that that situation can be considered as a investment appetite killer from a technology investment perspective, therefore impacting innovation and potentially growth. But on the other hand, I think insurers are also focusing on customer embarkment and customer engagement into their products. So in that respect, the compliance with GDPR and with the rules that require full transparency may give the insurers a position of being comforting their customers because of their compliance, because of the fact that they're transparent, because of the fact that the customers will see, obviously, that there's limited risk for them in entering into that. And that may help creating consumer loyalty or help further consumer acquisition, so customer acquisition. So in that respect, I think GDPR can be seen also as a vehicle for further development and be used as an interesting support. So I think it's more than a compliance tick box. It's really, if well managed and well implemented, this can serve growth.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, thank you, Okambe. I think I need now to welcome back Okambe for, basically closing almost that session.
Still,
Okambe,
we have 10 minutes.
Yes. As you mentioned when you first came in the stage, you have quite a significant amount of experience in the insurance sector. You're closely following startups as an investor, as a mentor. So what do you see on the Turkish market? How are they building up here?
I mean, let's start with the good news. Good news, there's a strong progress, so we should be happy and proud. I think that's important to see the improvement. Of course, there is also the other side of the coin. Is it sufficient? Definitely no. So when we look at the global activity, there is a tremendous interest on insurtechs. Globally, there are more than 2,000 insurtechs now, and in last year they received close to $4 billion investments, around 200 startups. So there is a tremendous interest from the overall startup ecosystem. So when we look at Turkey, number of startups are around 15, let's say. It's good, but not sufficient. So we have to improve the insurtech ecosystem in Turkey. That's the main objective and also our ambition. And when we look at how can we do that? I mean, that's the important question. It's good to have ambition and objective, but you should also have a kind of a plan and team and strategy to do that. So we have a kind of a three-pillar structure. The first pillar, we need to improve the insurance know-how within the entrepreneurs. There are significant number of entrepreneurs in Turkey in different technoparks, universities, different acceleration programs. They're already active in this field, but they don't know much about insurance. So they don't think about insurance. So we have to go and explain them our industry, what are our main pain points, so what are the opportunities in our industry. So that's one. And secondly, in my view, we need more entrepreneurs from the insurance domain. Because insurance, it looks like an easy industry, simple industry, but actually it's quite a complex industry. So there is definitely a need for domain know-how. And there are significant number of people in insurance companies, in agents, brokers, loss adjusters, and different service providers. So they know the insurance. And also some of them, they want to be entrepreneur, but they don't know how to do it. So we have to help them and teach them how to be an entrepreneur and how to embark a startup journey. And then maybe they can also work together. And the third pillar is to have these supporting functions. Of course, regulatory body is important. We should have a proper legislative system. That's for sure. The investors, angels, VCs, they have to support this, and also the insurance companies. I think the biggest role is for the insurance companies. They should be open and supportive. Today I'm extremely happy. One of my, let's say, the best days in this journey, because I've heard from three main players of the market, AXA, Allianz, and ARC, and three of them have here openly, with a lot of witnesses, stated that they like startups and they're open to work with them and they want to collaborate. And I think it's a big step for our startup journey, insurtech journey in Turkey. I know there are other companies, more companies. So that's a journey. It takes time. And I mean, we need support from each stakeholder. But really, I'm quite happy to see the progress. I think that's the main message. So we are progressing, and also the interest is there. Resources are there. So as Kobe said, we can do it. I mean, I'm a bit optimist, but we should be optimists in the nature.
No, I think that's the way you can push forward and motivate people to create that and grow that ecosystem. When we have been advising a number of innovation startups with respect to insurance-related issues, and also advising some insurance companies with respect to their digital transformation. And what we've seen basically is, as was previously mentioned also this morning, is that technology-driven growth is now a reality on the Turkish market. There's awareness around that, especially on the insurers side. But when you look back a couple of, like 10, 12 years ago, technology was basically focusing on internal systems, maybe actuary, and to a certain extent compliance, but that was it. And after a certain period of time, with the increase of international investors as well, we have seen that international groups have started to replicate or duplicate in Turkey successful models that they've been using abroad in other jurisdictions. And for example, we can name telematics as one of the, I think Yavuz Bey also mentioned that earlier, it's one of the tools that were primarily used in Turkey. Now, however, for the past couple of years, when we're discussing with insurers, we see that there's an interest. They've identified technology as a clear element for growth. There's an appetite there for cooperation and even for tech acquisitions, or if no, if not embarking them in-house, at least have a quasi-integrated cooperation with certain startups in order to work around new products and new ways of developing growth. But when you look at the startups, and as you mentioned, there's a number of them that originate from the insurance business and decided to launch the startup, and they have the knowledge of the market and rules and rules of the game. However, there's also a significant number of them that doesn't really have a clue about about the insurance reality. And that's where we have identified the fact that there's a real need to give them guidance around legal, regulatory, and compliance issues at the very, very beginning, at the most early stage, because when they're bringing their blueprints and you realize that there are holes everywhere and they're lacking of real regulatory compliance, or they're not protecting their IP rights, or they're missing key points, this can be a marketing killer, because imagine that startup approaching an insurance company, sitting around the table, presenting the project, and it's full of holes. That doesn't work. So that's where I think there's a real need for early stage reflection and thoughts around, obviously, digitally, how you structure that, how good it is from a marketing perspective, but also how it fits into the legal system and the requirements. Here in Turkey, looking at the regulatory side, I think from a legislation perspective, we have no showstopper or clear barriers, but still, I think there's a need for onboarding the regulatory authority into the process, getting them sit around with us on the table, explain them, create awareness also within their teams so that they understand what's happening and how they can help building up the market, because they need also to be one of the drivers in that and one of the stakeholders in that ecosystem. So from my perspective, bringing the regulators on the table, insurers being involved, and on the insurtech side and the startup company, creating a real roadmap and legal business plan for which they will need a good legal advisor.
I think it's extremely important for an international law firm like JIT to be involved in this field. I mean, that's a big opportunity for all startups. They have to really acknowledge that. And because as I said, I mentor a lot of startups, and mostly you have two young guys graduated from, even not graduated yet from university, and they don't know nothing about the business and the legal aspects, regulatory framework, and nothing, and they definitely need support. And usually they don't have money, so they need volunteers which are ready to support them for their long-term ambitions. And I mean, that's really a big investment from your side, and really thank you for that. I think that's a very valuable and important contribution to the ecosystem. And also we should, I think, underline one other fact. I mean, we talk about technology a lot, but I don't think that technology is the key thing, because technology, also when we look at our industry, as Yavuz said, I mean, all of the companies are quite advanced in technology. And when we talk about digital transformation, if you see it as a kind of a technological upgrade, that's a big mistake. That is the easiest part. The most difficult part is the culture, the mindset and behaviors. That's the most difficult part, and it takes time to change it. So I mean, technologically, I don't see too many barriers for our industry. The main topic is the mindset, behavior, and cultural adaptation. And also the other big issue for us, I mean, our industry is quite challenging. I mean, insurance companies, they struggle a lot of issues, troubles, and they have to allocate their resources carefully. So that's one of maybe the difficulty of the startup ecosystem. But all these kind of efforts will help, I think, the whole ecosystem to flourish in the future. And that's our aim. Good. Time is up. Wow,
officially.
Perfect timing. I mean, this is 0:00. Thank you, Pat. Thank you
very much. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
I would like to thank you all for the audience, and of course for all speakers. First time I experienced this 360 format, but I kind of enjoyed it. Instead of having 6 people still, let's say, staying here and waiting others, but this is more dynamic and a very efficient structure. I like it very much. I hope you also liked it. I was quite happy to hear all the comments and advices, recommendations, statements from all the speakers. I thank you, all of them. And I think now we have a break, or I hand over to the master of ceremony. Yes. teşekkürler.
Ben teşekkür ederim.
Sorry, I was busy with Instagramming. So yeah, thank you to our panelists for your wisdom. It was great. So we have a new MOUs coming soon. We have 5 MOUs happening within this session. After the session, we have 30-minute break. So please welcome to the stage Astana International Financial Services and Coop Hub to sign their MOUs. Demet Hanım, please. Okay, Mustafa Bey here. Mr. Mustafa. All right, he's coming. Afik as well. Yep. If I can get you here. This way. Thank you. And this she.
Maybe we can handshake.
Thank you. Congratulations. And the second MOU to be signed between Copenhagen FinTech and Coop Hub. Can we please get Copenhagen FinTech representative here? Thank you. It's exciting.
Thank you. I'll be on.
And the third MOU to be signed between Luxembourg House Financial Technologies and Coop Hub. A warm applause, please.
A lot of signature today. I have to kiss you. Thank you so much.
That's a warm one.
Really. So, where do I sign? This is yours. Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
You have your pen.
I've got my love pen.
Love pen. Okay.
Yes, so where do I sign?
I don't know actually. No, not this one.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, good. So, your turn? And then I will shake your
Okay.
hand.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. And our fourth MOU to be signed by MENA FinTech Association and Coop Hub. Can we get the MENA FinTech Association representative up on stage, please? Okay, we'll do the fifth one. While we're waiting, Pearson Professional. Can we get the Pearson Professional representative up on stage, please? They're in the elevator. Okay, they're coming soon. So bear with us, please. These are important agreements, I think, shaping our future, shaping our ecosystem and financial future. Okay, they're coming now. Pearson Professional is coming up on stage right now to sign their MOU with Coop Hub. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, Man Fintech Association is not here at the moment. We will do the ceremony later on. So please have your coffees. Thank you for listening and being here. We have a 30-minute break now.